second.
This is the BAM podcast with Malcolm Springer.
Here we go. Here we are with Holly Hutcheson. Um, I would go to say, I don't like to say you're a legend because that makes you sound old, and you're not that much older than me. So, I think a year or two. But anyway, but so
Well, that's experience then.
so Holly's a entrepreneur. Worked for Capital. When who else? Just tell us all about yourself. Let's hear. I want to hear because I'm as close as I am to you.
That's a long story then if I'm that old.
Well, because I think the important thing is like for kids and adults too to hear your story. I think you deserve it because you've worked hard. I know you've got a lot of great things going on, and because of you, I got a lot of great things going on. So tell us a little bit about and where you grew up and stuff like that. I know.
So I'm from a small town. Well, where I started was Holland Township, New Jersey. And my dad was a police officer, but that was part-time. He was a school teacher, but before that, he was a rocker while he was in college.
Oh, well, okay.
He was in a band. They used to back up Chubby Checker and Net Footed Cello and Curtis Lee at all the frat parties in the region and sometimes down in Atlantic City. So,
cool.
But of course, when he got married and I came along, Mom was like, you got to pick something.
What instrument did he play?
He played guitar. And he's really,
okay.
he really wants, he's kicking his butt right now that he sold he had like a 60 something, 62 Stratocaster.
Wow, imagine.
He is so upset, man. He's like, oh my God, if I had that. But yeah, so it kind of started there because he was always singing around the house, and he was in charge of he wasn't a music teacher, he was an 8th grade math teacher, but he handled the spring concerts because he's so musically inclined, and he would do Elvis stuff for the spring concerts.
Oh, cool.
He would dress the part and everything. He makes a good Elvis, he looks like. And when he was younger, he would pull it off really great. But yeah, so ever since I was a little girl, like I can remember being 2 years old, sitting there in little pigtails, and him singing "That's All Right, Mama." That's my favorite song.
Oh, wow.
And I started, with the Elvis thing. That was my favorite thing.
That's our mom. That song came up in a conversation not long ago.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what it was. It might have been with Scotty Austin, or I think there in his record because we were laughing because I did a cover with Collective Soul. That's All Right, Mama. And,
Oh, you did?
Yeah, cool. But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Why don't I sit and do like I'm doing a dissertation? It's a conversation, not a lecture. A lecture on Holly Hutcheson. Oh my God.
So what got you in the music business? What really sparked it?
Well, I mean, like that started it. I was always into it. I was a kid that ran around with tape recorders, and I was really into the thing. I don't know if you remember this, but they used to tell stories, like the radio guys, personalities would tell stories by playing music. Or there was programs like that. And so of course I thought that was cool. So that was my creative side. I was running around, recording songs on the radio, and then I was telling my own story, and then I would go to my grandmother and go, hey, listen to this story I just made up with all these songs. So I was like, you're a crazy kid. Like, what? So that was the first part of my creativity, is doing that kind of stuff. And then I tried singing a little bit with my dad's amps and stuff, and I was like, nah, I'm not really a performer. So it wasn't that. But I always loved music. My stepdad had an incredible collection of vinyl. And I remember when I was like 9 or 10 years old, he let me hold the Beatles records. And I started playing. He said, okay, you can play them. You have to be careful. And then he also had these cases of 45s, and they were all numbered the way they used to organize them in these little cases with the numbers, the artist, the title, and the record label. And I used to sit and play games memorizing all of that information.
See, I'm going to tell you how there was this last record we worked on together. You sent me a note, and you sent a Cure song for a thing, and I was quite a bit confused. And my sister's like, I mean, what Oh, she wants the bass distorted.
I want to
The bass distorted. But it was funny
What was the
because
drum too? The drums were tucked nice. They
Because-
were dry. They weren't wet, and there wasn't
Right.
a lot of crash.
well, and the thing is like, there's there's really a beauty to simplicity, man. It really is. I mean, and I know musical people, like, I overcomplicate things. Like, I have my relationships in the past, with women and with everybody, overcomplicate things. And it was funny because I had a psychiatrist tell me one time, this girl I was with him. The problem is he's going to think the worst case scenario. You're either dead or you're messing around with him. I mean, that's what, but anyway. But I came up with this whole picture in my mind when you sent me that, because I really studied The Cure, and I was one of those little kids that I had the LPs, and I would sit there and put them on, and I would listen, and I would sit there and take the needle, and I would just, you know what I mean? And I pictured you doing that because you sent me a lot of stuff that I grew up on too, and I was like, I know The Cure better than anybody. You know how I am. But no, I really studied the production of that band, and I know you studied a lot of the production stuff too, right? I mean, you really like me. When I listened to Led Zeppelin, I was the only kid that went, hang on here, 12-string guitars, we can't split those up. So why is the highs in the right and the lows in the left? Like, nobody like, oh, that's not what it's. Well, it's two in headphones. It is too. So that's where I learned the high string, at a very young age. But anyway, you come up with some pretty.
I was a huge Led Zeppelin fan, but I was more about like the data. So I was about the song and the feel.
Oh, see what the numbers
were. And then I
were.
also would make bets with people on which record that song was on and what position it was and what side, and I always won.
Really?
Because I had it all memorized.
Well, let me just tell you, any other producers that work for Holly, here's the deal: if you change anything 0.5 dB, she'll know. That's tough because I think you're a feel A&R lady, and I want to hear about that too. I mean, I know everybody else does too, because I want to hear, because some of the people you worked for, or some of the people I didn't get to work for, and some people I worked for you didn't get to, but mine was more. I look at Island Records. We were like the freaking Oakland Raiders. 1984, we were the guys who hit you hard, but we had strategy, but we just were more of a hard hitting record label. Whereas I look at the people you worked for as had a lot of finesse, and a lot of strategy, really strategic minded men and women. And I got my packaging today. I don't know why it buzzed me.
That's funny.
But anyway, so tell us a little bit about your A&R, because that's what I feel like. That's what you're so gifted at. And it's frustrating sometimes you being so far away, and it is at not knowing. But you've been so busy too lately, So it's been a little bit different on this project. So we've been, But tell us about your A&R and all that stuff, man. Because you know who you worked for and stuff like that. Because you let me hear a couple of records you A&R and we were talking earlier about why you left, and I told you why I left, pretty much the same reasons. But anyway, go ahead, tell us about.
Well, I mean, the more exciting part was the journey getting into being A&R and figuring out what it is that you want to do. Like, how do you know what you're supposed to do? Because there's so many roles you can do in the music business. You could be a manager, you could be an A&R person, you could be an agent, a publicist, radio,
right,
producer, mixer, mastering. There's so many things to do, the artist. And I'm not even sure how I came upon that, except for the fact that when I met Alberternigan, when I was
that's what I want to hear about.
Yeah.
That's what I want to hear about.
So, well, it started with this will crack you up. So I always had the records before everybody else in our area. I had the top, new stuff. Like if Pat Benatar came out with a new album, I had it before everybody else. If John Bon Jovi came out with a single, a 45, I had it before anybody else. I was really into being ahead of everyone all the time on what was hot. So, and then I'd make recordings and put it on a cassette in my car or something like that. So I was already into being on top of music and what was cool. And then when I was in college, I was such a huge Bon Jovi fan, and we heard that he was staying at the Hamilton Plaza Hotel or something like that. And we were like, okay, let's go try to find him. It's nothing I would ever have done in my life. I was kind of like nerdy. I was in college. It was like a very good, small, private college, and a certain kind of academia to go there. You know, it wasn't like the big party school, you know, where people were going for sports and
Prep
stuff.
school.
Yeah, so I was going more to like, you know, it's called Moravian College then. Now it's Moravian University. They've moved up into a university. But yeah, so I was going there, and we were like, oh, let's go over and see if we heard he was staying at this place. I'm like, let's go see if we can meet him. And we were bored, and we were supposed to be studying for a Spanish exam. So we went over to Hamilton Plaza, and we didn't see him, but we saw these guys like tumble out of a van with long hair, and they obviously weren't from the area. I'm like, who are these guys? They're interesting looking. So you're very shy, intimidating. Like, we're very easily intimidated where we're from. We're a very small town area. Never really been to the big city or anything like that. So I said, oh, let's go in there and pretend we're making a phone call. Like, I always found ways, even back then, to figure something out. So let's go like pretend we're on the phone and calling our parents to tell them we're staying at the hotel and we're not leaving college yet because, you know, the weather's bad and we're making something up. I don't know. So we did, and we're listening into on their conversations to see who they are. And then, so they're on the phones next to us, the pay phones, and I'm standing here. So I'm going, who are these guys? And then we're still not figuring it out. And then I'm like, hey, are we allowed to be in here? We're not staying here. Let's go sneak in the bathroom in the lobby and figure out the next move.
Right.
So we go in the bathroom. We're like, are we allowed to be in this hotel when we're not staying here? I mean, that's how rule following it was where I grew up. You just didn't do that. And so I said, let's just sneak past the desk and go up the elevator and start going on all the floors and see if we hear any loud party music or something. So we're like wandering the floors and we hear nothing. I'm like, okay. We go on the elevator, and then all of a sudden, Rob Affuso, who was the drummer of Skid Row, was on the elevator. Of course, Skid Row wasn't Skid Row then yet. The Skid Row everybody knows. Right. And so we're on the elevator, and he goes, hi, girls. And we're like, oh, this guy's kind of cute. He kind of looks like John Bon Jovi. We're like, who are you? And he's like, oh, I'm the drummer of Skid Row, and we're here playing. We're going to open for our friend Bon Jovi. I was like, oh, really, are you? He's like, yeah, the Stabler Arena. I go, I never heard of you before. He goes, oh, well, it's because Cinderella can't make it. They're finishing up another tour, and so he asked us if we wanted to do it. And I was like, oh. He's like, well, what are you doing? Come hang out with us. I'm like, oh, my God, I'm scared, but okay, we'll go. So we go to the room, and he knocks on the door to get in, and Rachel Bolin comes to the door, the bass player, Skid Row. His hair's all down. And he's like, oh, you're not the pizza guy. I'll never forget him doing that. Like, and he's like, so we're like, come on in. We're like, okay. So we go in, and they were really funny. They were really nice, and they'll probably be mad at me for ruining their reputation. They're all married now, so, and they're cool or have girlfriends and stuff. So maybe they won't need that reputation anymore. But yeah, they were really like nice guys to hang out and talk with. There was no alcohol, no drugs. They were just ordering pizza, and we were talking, and then Rob was going to NYU for PR. And I thought, wow, this is really cool. Somebody can be in the music business and be going for PR. I never heard of that. Like, what is PR? And he told me. And I was like, because I was going to be a lawyer from the time I was 9.
Right.
I was like, what is that? Okay. And hung out with those guys. And then we went back and finished studying. Mm-hmm. And they said, come out, hang out with us, go to the show. And then come over to the hotel afterwards. We're going to have a party in the lobby. I'm like, okay. So we went, and I studied, and guess what? I got an A. I got a perfect score on that Spanish exam, even though I was out all night.
Right.
I'm like, all right. I stayed up all night, studied, went in all fired up about this new direction of my life or whatever was going on, and I went in, and I aced the thing, and I was like, yeah, this is my calling.
Really? So that was the first time that you
and Sebastian wasn't in the band yet.
Oh, really?
No, this is when Matt Fallon was the singer. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, he wasn't even there
That's
yet.
the fella that passed away not long ago, isn't it?
Who?
Is that the guy who passed away not long ago?
Matt Fallon?
Yeah.
No, that was Johnny. Johnny was like a replacement for
okay,
Sebastian.
I didn't know. I didn't know because...
Yeah, no, Matt Fallon was... We're talking We're talking 1986.
Okay. Okay. Well, so was that when the first time you like went?
Well,
Okay,
from there, I was
you
like,
can do
yeah,
something in
I
music
want to do
besides just
something. I
play.
got to figure it out.
Right.
Like it's just, and it's like, where do you start when you're from a small town area, and we're like a secondary, tertiary, or not even a secondary, tertiary market. Like it's WZZO, Z95 in Allentown's the big rock station. You got MMR out of Philly at that time, and PST out of Trenton, and there was another one. Wait, no, maybe MMR might have been in
So
New
how
York, I
close
can't
to Philly
remember,
are you?
so we're like an hour and 20 minutes, hour and a half out of Philly north, along right up the Delaware River on the border of Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
Okay,
And then New York is at like an hour and a half across.
if my legs let up, and I plan on coming this week to your birthday party, I need to look up because the band Cinch, they're from there, and
I heard of them.
Yeah,
But they were probably there when I wasn't there.
Well, I produced their stuff. I got them a record deal years and years ago. But Jamie Stem is still, he's still around there playing.
Oh, yeah.
A singer, and really good guys. I produced the record. It was on Roadrunner.
Oh, okay.
There was a lot of good bands up there. Tidewater Grain. Do you remember that? Do you remember that? That
No,
band?
I don't remember them, but I know Fuel came from there.
Fuel?
Fuel was from there.
So how big is your town that you're from? I'm just
I don't even know
curious.
the number. So
It's just
basically, you could yell out the door, and somebody's parents would tell you they were looking for you where I grew up.
oh really? Okay, cool.
There was one blinking traffic light in the whole area, and one fire station with 2 fire trucks. And,
Oh, my hometown's got you beat. We had 2 blinking lights.
yeah, we had one, and we had the in one 2-story older, like one of those older houses. There was the public library, the police station, and city hall. They were all in a 2-story house in the middle of town.
So even though you're up from up north and stuff in the area, it's still pretty big odds that you got as far as you've come in your career. I mean, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
it was like kind of like, okay, now what am I going to do? That was my moment where I said, okay, I want to do this, but where do I go? So I asked the college radio station, like, what do you do? Like, what's the places that are alive and stuff around here? And then they told me Airport Music Hall is where a lot of the stuff was happening, the concerts.
Right.
So I went over there and I met them and I said, hey, I want to intern for you. I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I'm going to hand out flyers, meet people. I don't know, bring bands to you. I have no idea. But I just know that I want to do this.
Damn, man.
So I just dove in and figured out.
What happened. What happened to people like us? I'm not saying now Jackson, he's a go-getter, he is. But I'm saying though, kids don't have that attitude anymore, do they? Really?
No,
Not
I mean,
too many. You don't find many that'll just like I remember.
It's like because I think a lot of it is the technology made everything so easy. You don't have to try, and you don't use your brain to like go figure it out. You know.
My brother and my sister they get on my ass all the time because, me. I'll record a record for a pack of cigarettes, because I just want to record something. Mm-hmm. And I've had to get out of that mode because that's making me an old man quick. But that's awesome because that's great because I kind of had the same. I had the same attitude. But I started work. Of course, I recorded Black Gospel, and everybody's like, "No, you didn't." Yeah, that's why I got into the bit. I know it sounds weird, but I really love. I had a dear friend that got killed in a car accident when I was a kid, and I went to his funeral, and I went to this black church, and I saw that choir, and I went, I want to record that for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I want to feel like
how
this
it
for the
felt.
rest of my life, where the Holy Spirit's everywhere. I mean, I'm just saying that's, for me, some people don't believe in that stuff, but I do, and it really affected me, and then I started in, and it kind of pushed me into there, because I didn't think ever, man, I'd become, and then with like Josie and them guys, like in Memphis, I started recording bands like that, just like sneaking them in and stuff like that, and that's how it happened for me. And me, I was willing to do whatever it took, and because of that, I got big breaks. Like Paul Eversole hired me to engineer, Screaming Chili Wheelies or additional engineering. He'd record a lot of it, and we recorded some more of it over at Bill Street. But anyway, it's just funny because the record company is so. It's still a mystery to me, like how people come up in the ranks and I know that see me when I was young, or whatever, I would be calling you, not the A&R guy. And I'd be going, hey man, let me send you something and see if you dig it, and if you do, maybe you could throw it to somebody. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's kind of how I did it. So we call it the mail room. Oh, they work in a mail room. Is that true? Is there really a mail room?
Yeah, there is.
Okay. So it really is an
Somebody has
expression.
to sort all the mail and all the demos that were coming in.
I thought it
They
was an
don't do that
expression.
anymore. There's no demos anymore, but I mean, they come in a digital form now.
Did I tell you this? This is, I don't know if anybody ever did this. I got to ask you about this. So I found a band from St. Louis one time, and well, one time, several times, but there's one particular band, and I knew I had something great. So I went to Sears, and I got a huge refrigerator box. Then I got another box, and another box, and another box. I stuffed peanuts in this thing and shipped it right to Jason Flom's office. And of course, all it was in there was a CD, but it worked. They got signed. They didn't get signed by him, but they did get signed.
Right.
He thought it was funny, but I mean, how did you? What it really was? I mean, because back in the day, I thought, hey man, you got to get past, the lower level guys first. That's just starting, that they hear something cool, because we're the young ones. We were the young ones back then, and when fucking going, this is cool, and because me, of course, I listen to Jackson on stuff because he's so much younger and he knows, especially when it comes to hip hop stuff and beats and all that stuff, because the younger generation and stuff like that. I mean, did you, like, I mean, I know you found some bands and stuff. Just tell us a little bit more about that, because I'm just wondering how does the ranking go? Like, do you really start there? Do you have a college education?
Well, that's the kind of one I want to go back to the path, because that the things that you're asking all lead there. So. Right. When I got into the business and I wanted to help Skid Row, however I could get a show there, that was the first layer of what I'm going to try to do. And then, so they took some time off. They were getting a new singer, and then they called me up and they said, hey, we found the singer. Like I used to,
I'm sorry.
I used to go sit on the steps and listen to them practice without a singer down in Tom's River.
Right.
So, but then they called, hey, we got Sebastian. Da, da, da. I was like, okay. So I said, well, I want to book you guys. And I went and I said, hey, can we get them here? And they said, yeah, sure. So I put them in touch with the guy that handles all the details, and they booked the show there. And so in Airport Music Hall. But in the meantime, I'm like, well, I have to promote the show. So I want to get credits in college for writing or whatever. It was like a communications class or something. So I found out that they were playing in Flemington, New Jersey. I drove in a snowstorm, took my cassette player, my little note cards, all written out with questions, and I did their first interview, and I still have the cassette.
Wow, that's so cool.
And I had them sign the card, the little Rolodex card, note card. They were writing down their names and their ages, and I still have that too.
And this was before Sebastian?
No, this is right when they first got him, and they weren't signed yet. So they were like, okay, we're going to do this show. So meanwhile, then I took that to the Morning Call, which was the big newspaper in the area, and I got the story picked up there. So that was going to run right at the time. I don't even know how I knew to do that. No one ever told me how to do this stuff. I just figured it out somehow. There was no internet. It was just, okay, I got to promote the show that I'm doing. It just came naturally. And so I said, okay. And so I'm in school and I'm doing all this, and it's going into like Christmas, I think, or something. And there's this January, it was a big snowstorm coming. I remember that night, and I got all worried. I thought, oh no, after all this work, I made hand-painted t-shirts. I did everything. I made food for the whole thing up in this. There's like a green room apartment that's on the side of the stage. What? And then I said, oh, there's a snowstorm. Nobody's going to come. And the guy that runs the place was like, the club manager, he goes, oh no, there's one guy coming that's going to make the whole difference of this. And I go, who? He goes, Alberternigan is coming in, the founder of Atlantic Records. Now, I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan, and you know how I studied records. So I always knew the Atlantic Records label. I knew which ones he was into, not just rock, like everything. And I was like, oh my gosh, he's coming here. I'm going to get to meet him. And so he came in a helicopter in a snowstorm. And he had his jacket off, and he was down on the ground with the kids, and his sleeves rolled up. His in a suit, and he's like jamming out to it. And then afterwards, I got to stand up in the, we were all hanging out upstairs afterwards, and I'm standing like right next to him, and he's got Snake on the other side of him, Dave Sabo, and so Snake and Ahmed are talking about Atlantic Records, and I'm just like, just eating it all up, just like, this is great. And then he does his Turkish accent. He goes, "You sign with Atlantic Records, you'll never worry about money again." Just like that. And I'm like, oh my God, he's offering them a record deal. And
wow,
and I'm standing here next to this moment, and I said, I want to be that guy.
Right.
This is if anybody's followed my stories before, they've heard me say it before, but I always say, I want to be that guy. I want to be Alberternigan.
That's a big shoes to fill. I mean,
and I don't know that could be him, but I wanted to do what he was doing. I wanted to be.
But you know what? And you're doing it. I mean, you really are. Well, look, Alberternigan was a different time. I mean, and this is what I try to picture. I mean, when those guys like that were doing what they were doing, did they really know this is going to be history? I mean, you know what I'm saying?
He's got a different, and there's different kinds of styles too. I mean, a lot of people like to say the two guys at that time were, Alberternigan and Clive Davis. There's two schools of thought, at least from what I've learned in A&R.
Right.
And Clive was more about the business. To me, he was about the business of finding the right song and getting the hit and getting the talent and the art and like that. Where Ahmed was more of like the vibe guy. Like he'd be like kicking around in jazz clubs when he first started Atlantic Records. He was vibe dude, and I like that more of that feel. So that was
something fall or something. I hope Jackson wasn't in there and fell on his head or something.
So he's a feel guy.
So did you get to work for him?
Yeah, well, that was what was craziest. So I was like, okay, now what do I do after college graduation? I'd gone on a trip to LA, and before that, I got myself a gig at interning at Concrete Marketing, which was the big rock thing in the heyday.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so I did that for a little while, and I did the MTV Headbangers Ball Charts and stuff like that. Well, while I was in college, so I'm working at a factory. I'm taking full 4 courses, and then I'm going in on a bus 2 hours back and forth.
So okay, let's back up here because I want to know like, what is because I really want this podcast to be about successful women in this business, because I mean I'm kind of gullible. I was spoiled because I have my Aunt Linda, which is the most successful person that I know. I say the most successful person that I know. I mean, as far as just like she's a great woman. I mean, I was raised by a great woman, and my mother's a great woman. And I've been around, so I don't really, but I hear bad things and I hear good things. But I go, well, man, I mean, the most powerful person I would say in the music business is a woman. Julie Greenwald. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just saying maybe it's because I look at her that way. I don't know. She's a really good lady, but I don't. I guess she runs all Warner. Doesn't she? I mean, what's her title? Do you know?
I'm not sure. I think it's at Atlantic. She's with Craig Kelman.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But what's your advice to young ladies that want to like get into this because it's getting to where it's going to be companies like yours, and I'm serious, like yours. Me, I'm so busy producing records.
Yeah.
I'm not doing what you're doing as far as like, the promotions and you got connects because you got time to make connects. I've just got time to sit between speakers these days. I mean, it's the truth. Well, I got old connections, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what's your advice? I mean, to young ladies. I'm serious. Like, what was your key thing? I mean,
Well, it wasn't easy starting anyway. But the first piece of advice I had from the guy who actually was the main guy that ran that whole building was when I was 19 or 20, he said, listen, you're a female in this business. You got to be careful. You got to watch yourself, what you're going to be around. He said, but I'll give you a piece of advice. He said, make them think maybe they'll get somewhere, but never, just always say no.
That's great.
And I was like,
That's
wow.
awesome.
He goes, don't ever give in. He's like, don't ever give, but be nice. And he goes, and use the charm, but never let them cross that. And I said, okay. And that stuck with me. And I felt like every time I was able to do something and accomplish something, that I had my own set of rules. Like, I wasn't going to compromise myself. I knew from the way I was raised to use my brain. And it was
Right.
always about, getting straight A's or taking honors classes and being looked at it from a more of a mental standpoint. I never really viewed myself as, I was a blonde girl, and wearing mini skirts and stuff like that. But I never saw myself as an obstacle, like an object. I always saw myself as more with the brain.
Well, good.
And so and that's the thing with the women, you can't compromise. You have to, and this is a big topic for me too, because I've actually had people that followed into the entertainment business and like the next age group. I've had females say to me, thank you so much for being the kind of executive that didn't compromise yourself sexually,
Right.
and that you made it so we can move ahead without having to compromise ourselves.
See, for me, it's like I'm in a studio environment all the time, so women who are used to studio like you, I mean, I say some pretty outlandish things, and I do not towards you, but I'm saying just period.
I had 3 younger brothers, and you should see what they talked about at the
but
table.
it's like, there's a lot of women that probably that would, think that I'm offensive, but it's like, this is how, I mean, I grew up around rock bands. I mean, that's all I've done for 30 years. So if you're around, not that rock band people are, but they are all freaking use bad language and say dirty jokes. But doesn't that in
when
every...
in Rome, I mean, you just got to fit in. You just got to
it's like every
meld
job,
in
though.
and,
It's like,
and vibe everybody.
we just have to be in the same room being creative, and that makes it even more funny. And it's almost like, someone comes up with a dumb idea and it turns into the most genius idea,
Right.
and we're all laughing about the dumb idea, and while we're freaking laughing all the way to the bank, how it
Yeah,
is.
right.
But I know one thing. I'm seeing more female engineers come up, and
That's great.
It's really
Because you really didn't see that many when I was back at the labels
no,
and stuff.
especially with my little punky, my little daughter, she said one night to me, maybe I should just be a producer like you. And it almost breaks my heart to go, well, you don't want to do that, But I didn't say that but Miss Sylvia, she's a badass. The women producers that are out there are super super badass, and it's almost like and I hate to say this, I'm not down in myself. I'm just saying, with my accent and being a country sounding guy. I have to be 10 times better than the next guy. I mean, because the way I look, the bald head blinds me. No, but seriously though, it's just it seems like if I had a British accent and fancy haircut, and I wore fancy clothes, it'd be a lot easier to get gigs, And being yourself is what I found, to be the best way, because people know you're genuine, and I think that's with women. I think that being genuine is just the key. That's what it. I mean, for me, being looked at like because if they hear you talk, hear me talk, well, they automatically think that, which also gives you the up on them too.
Yeah,
and that's how I see a lot of women too, like thinking, because I gotta admit, when we did the session over there with Josie Scott, it's like I admit it. I was worried about having, one of the girls, because I'm kind of a rough guy, it's like, so, but now I met that one girl, what was her, Olivia.
Olivia, yeah.
Well, and,
And Michelle.
Well, Michelle, now, I worked with her, and both of them are pretty girls, so look at me. I'm going, well, she's not very, she's pretty, she's probably not that good, Well, I find out a lot different about this Olivia girl. I hear she's a pretty sharpshooter,
Oh, wow.
Well, she worked for Dave Cobb
Oh, okay,
for
great.
a little bit. So,
Wow.
I mean, she's definitely no dumbass, and she
Wow.
knows what she's doing.
Yeah.
And she handled herself real well, but, But it's weird because it's like it seems to me like the engineering part of it, women are getting into it more, and I think that's awesome. It's just because usually you hear, I've heard your name since I was freaking, 21, 22 years old, and stuff because just going up through the business, Didn't meet you for years, and then Matthew Freeman introduced me to you. We went sailing, remember that?
Yeah.
And I got sick as shit, remember that? Oh,
Yeah.
man. I kept eating that Dramamine or whatever it
Yeah.
was. It didn't do any good. I was still like so embarrassed. I was freaking throwing up and stuff. Man, freaking sailboating's rough on you. And you girls, y'all were just partying, having fun, and I'm like, it was like, oh God. I'm
Well, no, we
miserable.
weren't really partying. We just sat.
We always kind of laying up
Me
on
and the other
deck,
girl were up in the very front.
Yeah.
And that felt good because we had the water splashing us.
Right.
But when I tried to go downstairs below, I started to feel ill right away. I was like, no, that's not for me either. I'll stay above.
I tell you, but that was the first time I met you. And I'm gonna tell you, I didn't. One thing Matthew Freeman did teach me is that sailing is not easy. He made it look pretty easy, but I can tell you, I wouldn't know the first thing about it. But he was always tie that off, all this stuff like we're on some kind of big, pirate ship or something, But we get some good speed on that stupid sailboat. He had a nice boat. But anyway, I think that was you in law school then, or was you just?
No,
working,
I never went to law school.
Oh, I thought you did.
No,
See?
I changed course, and just I've done.
Okay,
But I've
okay.
worked really close over the years with the legal department. That was one thing that I was really excited about. So, one time Perry Watts Russell said to me when I was at Capitol, he was the senior VP of the department, and I said, Perry, I can help close this deal. And I was like, can I go talk to John Ray? And he was senior VP of legal, and he said, yeah, sure, go up there. So next thing you know, I'm up there going, well, looking at the contract, I'm going, why don't we change this term here, move this here, and go with that? I just did it.
See, man, that's the stuff that I can.
I was like, close the deal.
I can do.
ABC, always be
just
closing.
takes me a long time to get there, and I've learned a lot over the past even 4 or 5 years with working with you and working with, and kind of having to some guys like you pushing me kind of to go, hey man, you got to figure this out on your own. What the hell? I can tell you roundabout what to do, but this has got to be on you,
Mm-hmm.
And like doing the label business plan and all that stuff. It's like I learned so much. I kind of see differently and see like, hey, from a label standpoint or a manager standpoint, like where you have to be really choosy about who you represent and who you sign.
Well, yeah, because you like when you've worked from a certain perspective, and and I found this too after coming from a major label. You're like, we're on the aggressive, like, go out, find the talent, bring it in, sell it to the company, then get it ready and get it ready to go out. But we're not in the accounting department. But when you're a small business and you're out doing it for yourself and you're working with the artists and you're in the middle of it, you want to do your own thing, you start to understand what return on investment is real quick.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I need this much money, but guess what? I have to make it back.
Well, and I don't think that the reality's quite hit me yet as far as a label, owner, production company. Really, I'm not really a label, not yet. But going and borrowing a couple $1 million is kind of like, you got to pay it back. So you better figure out what you're going to do to pay it back.
Right, exactly. And how much are you going to spend to get to a point where you can start to see it coming back?
Well, it sounds really easy. It is kind of simple, but there's a lot of moving parts, especially to the management A&R side. I know that getting a label, I know. I mean, if you're an A&R person, I would think that having a producer you can talk to and work with, because a lot of them, man, are like, well, man, they want to argue with you and stuff, and I try to be open-minded and be an open book because every single time I do a record with anybody with any experience and. That's a name like you, and I learn, and sometimes it's frustrating, man, because I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about, or I don't know what he's talking about, and but sometimes it is, and well, okay, I'm gonna try to look at it from this side of the freaking fence, and then maybe meet in the middle and try to figure out what's going on, and like there would be some mixes I would send you and be like, nailed it, I'm like, really? I'm like, I thought, no, wait, well, I knew I liked the instruments I had changed, but the mix I didn't know. Anyway, it's fun stuff. But so tell us about your company, A&R Girl, and all that stuff, because I think people need to know about it. And when you put a link up there, you know, sidetrack and stuff on the podcast, so people can go see the website and stuff. And because what I mean, you've always been doing it. So what's like, you know, I said it in an interview when somebody interviewed me about it, and I just asked about you. And I said, well, you've been doing this for years. I don't know what the big deal is, you know, but it's like I guess a new, fresh beginning, and you got some really big things. And I don't know if you wanted to talk about those things or not. Now that's your call there. I mean,
well, it's kind of like, okay, and finally, you work so hard at things, and you get, you know, for A&R Girl, I want to say that was a vision I had when I left Capitol Records. I started to see the turn from technology and where the business was going, and I said, you know, these advances are getting smaller, and I'm seeing the deals, and I know. See, when you're inside of a label, you get to see really what's going on with where the money's going and things like that.
Right.
And when you do the deal that closely, you see the percentages and everything. So you're sitting there, and you know, most people are like, oh, great, the A&R person's in town, and they're taking us out to this big meal, blah, 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 or the radio guy. But really, they don't know that they're spending the money on themselves. And
they got to
the
pay
only
it back.
people that are eating well is the record company, because they just got a free meal, and they're attaching that to your accounting to recuperate.
Right.
So if you're not getting a big advance anymore, and you've got to create this great record, and then they're going to do some kind of deal where, you know, you're going to get 18%, 20% on the back end, but we're going to take, you know, like, okay, for instance, a music video is going to be, say, $50,000. That's now. No. I mean, back then they used to spend $300,000 on a music video, right? And they say, oh yeah, but guess what? Okay, so let's go back to the old days. $300,000 for a music video, and we're gonna, in the deal points, it would be, well, you're responsible for 50% of it as the artist. We'll split it with you. How is that fair? Because this $300,000 video has got to, you got to recuperate $150,000 on your side, and that's just one element. That's not the radio promo and all your tour support and all that. And on the dollar, you're only going to get 12. No, yeah, you're only going to get 12 on the dollar. 12 cents, maybe 18 cents on the dollar.
If you're lucky.
And they're making 82 cents on the dollar and still asking you to split the costs with them. But they're fronting the money so you can play in the sandbox.
Right.
And then you're hoping that that's going to, send you into stratosphere touring wise, so you make your money on tours, which at that point they weren't touching. But then it became the 360 deal. So anyway, going back to it, I saw that it wasn't, something had to give because of digital and everything taken over, and the sales were going down. So I remember sitting in my backyard in Burbank as I was leaving Capitol, having a conversation with another industry friend saying, you know, I think it's going to be someday where the artist is going to own their product, their label, and they're going to hire us. They're going to hire us. This is in 2002. They're going to hire us, and they're going to own the product.
Wow, it's so funny you said. I said in 2005, I said one day the producer and the managers will own the labels, and there will be no more major labels. I mean, there'll be distribution hubs, but why do we even need that anymore? We can digitally distribute ourselves. But now they're tying it up, though. I'm learning from you and learning from Denny Sanders and Richard Williams and people I've been hanging out with, how they are tying up those things. So you need to be with one of those bigger companies to get the streams that you need. But you can, but to really get on the playlist that you want and to have credibility. Is that true or is that bullshit? Really?
I think if you have the funding and you have the right team of people that know what they're doing, there's a lot of people when there was downsizing that know what they're doing on the outside of the record label because they were on the inside. Yep. And they have the connections you need, and they have, the wherewithal to do it. And I try to talk artists away from major labels unless they've got something really good. It's kind of like if you look at distribution in a market, like if you say you're a mom and pop startup and then all of a sudden a lot of people like it and you can't fulfill your demand, Then you go to a bigger company and you say, hey, you know, I need some help to be able to process this and make more product because my demand is here, but I need the cash fronted so I could do it.
Right.
Instead of like making all this money, all these costs before you even get out of this, get out of the store or whatever, the mom and pop. So if you build a demand on your own, then you have leverage. You have creative control. And now these big companies, they're not really it's tapped into artist development. So if you do as much as you can on your own, and then you have someone there with you working with you, you can cut a better deal for yourself because you've already proven yourself, and they're already looking for that anyway. They want to see you prove it.
Do you? Because I've got
Nobody
questions,
takes
and I
risks
think
like they
people that are watching the podcast would have the same questions that are interested in music and Bigfoot and aliens. We will get to Bigfoot and aliens later, but no, like so because I feel like when I tell an artist, "Hey, man, your destiny really is in your hands," the recording, who you choose to do it, where you choose to do it, and you can build a mansion out of a molehill. I mean, really, honestly, I guess is that the saying, or did I get it wrong? But anyway, no, but seriously though, you can build it up from nothing if you work hard enough, and you just study how to do certain things, certain tricks, and some of those kids, they got that stuff down. I mean, they really do, especially those rap kids, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, them little rap guys, black kids are smart as hell. They know how to work the internet. They figure out how to work it, and they just hit that freaking button every time. I mean, and all of a sudden it's like they know how to market themselves and stuff like that. Where, as you got the rock and roll community it's kind of going down because the struggle is with the freaking thing. I think, but that's me. I think that if somebody would have handed Elvis Presley a record deal without any kind of working his ass off, it probably wouldn't have been Elvis Presley.
Exactly.
It's kind of the struggles part of it. But I'm wondering. So do you feel like an artist has to get funding, to move forward, or do you think that they can do it on their own?
Well, I mean, if you're going to be a real business, you have to have funding, no matter what business you are.
I love it. That's why I want to. Because I would say because
you can't have to start up the taco stand without the money to buy the meat and the chicken and the shells.
That's what I wanted out of you, because I don't think that a lot of these younger artists that are like real young, like 16, 18, whatever, that go, hey, you're not going to be singing in a bar in the middle of Nashville somewhere, and somebody walk in and go, "Oh my God, you're so amazing." Well, they might. It depends on if they want to get laid or not.
It's not that way anymore.
No, and it's like
it was like that a long time ago. So,
but it was. But what's crazy is, like, I have seen the human, species come to this whole thing where, there's a lot of great singers, and people, when they had that whole, I don't know if you agree with this or not, I'm really curious what you think, but when they had the voice and the whatever,
the American Idol,
stuff, all of a sudden we turned into a culture. We were a culture of writers, and then we became a culture of singers, and that promoted like people like Brett Manning, a good friend of mine that has Sing Success, and people who are vocal coaches, and can teach a person to literally sing from the ground up, and not be all good, and make them into someone pretty damn good or even great. Mm-hmm. So my question is, do you feel that way too? 'Cause I feel like it hurt the songs. Like when you heard Bob Dylan, and you didn't think about how great of a singer he was. You thought about the song he wrote. You know.
Well, I come from that background anyway, more of like a branding. So. And it's even more so, like, people are tuned into branding the way marketing is right now. So if you're a singer, what else do you have to offer? What's going to make somebody buy into you? Right. So you got to have everything. For me, for A&R Girl, you can't just sing. You've got to come to me and show me that you know who you are, or you're willing to learn who you are and go down that journey and that path. Because otherwise, there's like a singer's a dime a dozen. But who is gonna, what are you selling that someone's gonna buy into? What is it about you that makes you think you should be a superstar?
Do you feel I think this podcast is so interesting because it really is for people who just want to know how it all works and stuff. Do you feel? Because I do feel this sometimes. I'm not kidding. That someone that I'm not going to name any names, okay, but we are both know who we're talking about. That aggravates the piss out of you. Okay, they just aggravate the fart out of you. Just aggravate. Or are constantly like freaking just acting. Ask the stupidest questions 50 times, the same question, and they say, "Do you think?" I'm kind of trying to look at it different. I'm trying to step back. I'm prayed about it. I'm trying to look at it like, is that someone that's going to be that way to the world? You're not going to get away from me. I'm here. I'm here. No one's going to say no. I'm going to make you pay attention to me. I don't care what it takes. See, there's that side of it that's the good part. The bad side of it, you're dealing with a crazy person, which most artists are crazy. But I'm saying what I say, reckless almost, like a reckless thing. Well, they make the wrong person mad. Well, that's a reason why I never thought you'd be good with him because I thought, she'll lose patience with this dude and kill this guy before it's over with. There's no need to that. but
So you have to be coachable. I think that anyone who's gone on to be successful was willing to be coachable. They understand it's a team effort and that the people that they put around them are obviously not there for a hobby. They're there to make money because that's what they do.
Right.
And if they believe in your brand, your product, and who you are, that's the whole point of the whole thing. Like, you have to be able to listen to the people around you because no one steps out of it and steps onto the page or the stage and says, "Okay, I'm successful. Here I am, arrived."
But do you think? I guess my question is: do you think there's just a delicate balance of persistency and man, how I guess you would say how you would talk to somebody, and it not offend them, and be a person that's easy to talk to, and like not like someone who is aggravating, but someone who is. Is there, to me, I think there's a balance there, and I've learned that, I think, from you more than anybody, because, we had a problem the other day, you're like, hey, man, tell them, get the hell out of there, either sell them off or be done with it, get the paper signed, and I've thought a lot about that moment, because I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to put so much into this, and I love them, and, so I started making calls, and made a couple calls, and, and everything worked out, but I was on that balance, man. I was right there going, man, fuck this, man. This is bullshit. I don't want to hear this shit anymore. But where do you I think you're more of a, hey, man, you're going to be a freaking ace or you're not. It's like, I don't have time for people who aren't going to be, used to, though, you had more patience and you developed more and try to teach them, manners. I know I have with rock bands a lot. But what now though? You're looking for more. These people can self-contain themselves, but I'm going to get them there, or is it that they don't know? Do you want an artist that doesn't mess with everything, or
It's interesting. I notice the younger they are, the more antsy they may be in having their opinions. But I've also been able to show them through example the certain way that works better, and they're either gonna get it or they're not. It's not that hard.
Right.
If they get it, and I see them showing that level of respect that they're gonna take the advice and be guided, then I can see that they're smart and they get it. Because there is a certain level that you have to be like that to get out of to rise above the rest of them from a local level, to get somebody like yourself or myself interested who are national, international, right? And so you look for that, but you also look for that ability to contain yourself once. Here's an example. I said this to Bob. I said it to Bob Green. I said, because he's new, he's not an establisher. He's not like Josie, who's already had a deal and things like that. So I said to him, like, one thing that you need to understand if we're to move forward and work together on a consulting level, when you're working with me, you're not trying to make it. You're doing it. There is no trying to make it. You're doing it. You're either doing it or you're not doing it. So yeah, you have a day job, but you're doing it. I don't try to do anything. I've already done it. So if I'm here with you in this room, we're doing it.
So well, that brings me to another question. So when you come up with a, do you test market demographics, or do you just know instinctively that's who's going to like the music? Because I mean, Bob Green's a good example of a guy that he's got some songs that's definitely going to go over with teenage girls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm serious. And then he's got a lot of songs that's going to go with more adult contemporary. I hate even saying that word.
I don't think of it that
name.
way. I just think, are they a quality artist, and they'll find it.
Oh,
We'll find it. And I do some testing, on like these little like website things where you can buy airplay kind of things. One of them's like Django or something like that. You put it on there, and you buy so many streams, and people are listening to it, and you can find who liked it, like who's become a fan, who's listened or passed over it, and
Okay.
I'll gauge it, and then I'll look at okay, is it more men, is it more women, what's the age group? And I do that a lot of times with my ads for artists too, when I'm putting the stuff out. I'll be like, okay, what's the greatest engagement? Where was the greatest engagement? Okay, now let's trim the money down. Let's not try to cast the net to people that aren't caring.
Right.
Let's hone in on this age group. So it might be we're getting more hits from 24 to 32, or we're getting more hits from 18 to 30, or we're getting 44 to 54. I mean, that's where where it's going to be.
And here's what's great about this podcast, because I'm asking you a bunch of questions I've been wanting to ask you. No, but there is a particular situation that I had with an artist I found, and of course the first thing that I heard the voice, and man, he got any songs? But man, we'll give him songs. But I heard potential as a writer. Well, anyway, we made an awesome record. And anyway, pulled some strings, and he passed up an opportunity. Is that where you would say? I mean, a big opportunity, like he screwed up big time. Mm-hmm. Is that? Would you? Do you give artists like second chances on stuff like that, or do you kind of go, well, hey man, if you're so dumb that you did that, then I can't handle it?
Exactly.
And see, that's the attitude I get in it. but it is because
I did it a lot more when I was younger, like trying to help bands and stuff, and then I started to get in the mindset of like, you have to learn that your time is a value too. You're good, but what is your value? Would you rather be sitting at home playing with your kids? Or are you trying to help this kid who's just passed this big opportunity after you put all that time into them?
Exactly.
And where are your values? Where are your priorities as an executive or a producer who's the champion, an expert producer? You really have to take your time seriously.
And I think that my biggest part as a producer, and I can tell you, my family, my sister can really tell you, it's been hard to let things go, because it's just hard. Once I believe in someone, it's hard. But it's like, the reality of it is man, there is a great singer on every corner, and they're good looking, but see, they have the attitude. But I find that, do they believe that they can really do this, or are they already living that, or are they already like me? And I'm not, like I said, I'm not downplaying myself, but I think me coming from where I'm from, out in the middle of nowhere, and I mean, I really come from the middle of nowhere. People say that, but no. I mean, I'm telling you, Michael Littman went to where I was from one time. He goes, "Oh my God, you're off the fucking grid, dude." But I think ignorance is bliss, and I just kind of like, well, I'm gonna be a record producer. You know what I mean? It's like I grew up out here in the middle of freaking New Madrid County, in the middle of nowhere, Missouri, and I'm gonna go be a record producer. And I think that I didn't understand the magnitude of that statement. And I think that I think that finding someone that's bright-eyed is fine, But I think that having the smarts and going, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go work for this person, or I want this person to manage me. I want to be signed to this record label because this artist is, or I want to do this on my own. I want to build it. because that's what you do. Is you're building artists, and you're basically doing partnerships with artists and building their things so they get a lot more money.
And they own their masters.
But oh yeah, you want to go? You said something about that 20%, 18% or whatever for the band, and the record deals.
Well, you're at a major label.
But
You don't
oh
own
my
your master.
God, I figured up how much money those son of a bitches are making on live shows. Do you
Yeah.
know how much money they made touring? Oh my God, it's like I'm talking millions of dollars. Just all those artists back in the day that the label wasn't taking a part of that.
Right.
Oh my God, they freaking huge money. I mean. Because then when I started figuring out, because, trying to do my own label thing and, having to figure up all that, I'm like, that is incredible how much money was made. And on the merch and stuff, I mean, that's what blew me away when I started figuring up the merch. I'm like, holy shit, these people are making millions off of selling T-shirts. Okay, I used to have a producer I worked for. He goes, yeah, it's all about selling hamburgers and hot dogs and T-shirts. So, and I thought, hey, Lord. I'm not going to say what an idiot because I really respected him, but, but now I see that. And I heard him say something like that to Doc McGee one time. And I was like, I don't know if it was very good or not. But now that I've looked at some of the numbers, I see why somebody would say that. But now, do you feel that the streaming thing is going to stay where it's at now? Or do you think we're going to advance to something? What about the NFTs? Do you think we're going there? Do you think... I mean, I don't know.
It's an open book, but I know that I'm highly involved with, and invested into Streamcast, the Streamcast with a K, right?
Right.
And it's all one word. But what I love about Streamcast is that it's an e-commerce visual, where the platforms out there that you can go and expose yourself. Well, you still got to drive people to them, even if you're on Facebook or Instagram. You can connect by doing, hashtagging or, tagging someone else and then being in the picture with them and all that kind of stuff. But once you do that, excuse me, say you have a fan base, excuse me, but after that, say you're like, I saw this as an example. So, my friend Tom DeLonge, who left Blink-182,
right.
He's with Angels and Airwaves now. And he put out a book. And I remember watching him go live on Instagram. And like 5,000 people were on there in like no time. And I'm sitting there going, okay, who's making the money off of him being on Instagram? He's not.
Instagram.
And okay, he's talking about his book, but so the thing that Streamcast does is, what if he says, hey, I'm going to do this really cool event on Instagram. He's like on Instagram, but you got to go over here. And then you go over to your channel on Streamcast. They want to see him anyway because he's got the engaged fans, and there's 5,000 people on a Streamcast paying, even if it's only $2 or $3 to get in to spend time with him. And guess what? He's got his book there that can pop up in the middle of it,
and he can buy it.
And people are putting their orders right there. Have your thing out. Go boom, boom,
you can buy
boom.
the audio book
You
and all
can't. No, you can buy the hard ones.
Right.
It's like. You just
really? Just order? Oh, really?
You're ordering it. So Streamcast is ordering. Basically, is ordering, order processing with visual. Think of the visual broadcast as your live commercial, and you can also do video on demand. So you can make a documentary and sell it. It's like pay-per-view.
I was going to ask you that.
But if you go to Netflix or a pay-per-view, you're gonna watch the boxing. Here's a good example.
Right.
You're buying the fight. Right. You're going to watch the fight, right? You're paying to watch that live stream of the fight, right? Everybody's watching the fight. But what if there was a special signature thing that one of those fighters was selling and you wanted to have it and it's popping up right there? Right. Pay-per-view doesn't allow you to do that.
No, it's true.
But Streamcast does.
Well, that was one of the questions I wanted to ask. Do you think after this pandemic thing happened and everybody started live streaming, because I know that everybody's scrambling around to get the live streaming thing done, do you think that artists should put that as part of their playbook for their success? I mean, being ahead of the game, because it's going to happen again sooner or later. I mean, something. And no, it might be 5 years, but the person, I mean, should that be a part of their playbook, or is that not? Yeah,
well, what I'm thinking of with Streamcast is the one thing that you own as an artist is yourself, your being. The label can't sell your experience. that connection between you and the artist, I mean, the fans and the artist, fans will pay the money for the access to an artist that they love. They want to support them. They'll pay for VIP tickets. They'll pay to go to the meet and greet. They'll pay to go to sound check. They want to get inside and know what's going on with that artist. So what's the one thing that somebody can't take from you is you. So if you have a system like a Streamcast and you're selling that moment, it's that moment that they weren't going to get otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, that's incredible.
That's the one thing that you can sell is that experience. Like, hey, I'm going to go to my favorite place and eat lunch today. And then they're like, I'm going to pay $3 to go eat lunch with him because I want to go watch and see what he orders or she orders. Right. Or I'm going to go shopping. I want to go shopping to see what she's going to buy. Like, what is she like? Because we're in that realm now because of the way that digital is. There's more of another layer of interest in a person and lifestyle.
And, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I never thought that would catch on. But, I mean, I was the guy, though, that said no one's going to go to the internet and download a song. They want to have some kind of physical, you know.
Well, they still can. Because in that, you could still, in that moment, okay, here's a, for instance, like what I'm going to be doing with one of my artists is we're going to set up a listening party for their stream. And people have been waiting to hear it. Right. And they're going to sit there with the artist as an event at a listening party. They don't have to go to that town. They're going to be able to be anywhere in the world and share that moment that artist releases something new. And then there's going to be a special piece of product if they want to buy it to support the artist. Or maybe they'll get a discount on the vinyl when it becomes available later in the year. There'll be something that's really fun and engaging for the fans because you want to support your favorite artists. I mean, that's another thing is I think the problem with some of the social media platforms started making people think that everything's for free. Like, why should an artist give anything away for free? It's like they don't go and perform for free. You pay tickets to go to a show. Why are you taking the music for free? Why are they on it? Why are they doing Instagram Live with the acoustic during the pandemic? That bugged me. Why are they giving that moment away for free? What are you getting? And then, okay, if you were doing it for free, at least with Streamcast, if you had been doing it there, you have something to sell right away. They didn't have to leave and go over here and go over there. It's the same thing with the concept of radio. When you pay to get airplay, right? Unless you're somebody that's an established artist and you're a new artist and you finally get that airplay, who the heck knows who you were when they're driving in the car, they're at work, it's in the background. How do you know who that was? How do you know what it is?
And they don't announce it.
And they don't announce it because you're new.
Hardly ever.
Nobody knows it is. So why would you even do that? Because there's no connection.
Right.
You know, nobody can go back and find you.
Well, yeah, the radio thing is weird because it's so funny because, you know, Eric Baker's one of our close friends, one of my best friends. And, you know, he doesn't have much confidence in it lasting a whole lot more many years. But, you know, I think that taking CDs out of Walmart and Best Buy, places like that, I think it helped radio. I think that's helped radio a little bit. But I think
why do you think it helped it?
Well, because when you get in your car, instead of looking for something, people will just pop on the radio. And I noticed that with my kids, you know. They'll just turn on the radio, anything on. They're just trying to, it's almost like Cracker Jacks. They're trying to see if they get a surprise. Most of the time, they turn it off and turn their phone on at the next stoplight, and I'm going crazy because they're about to get a wreck. Make us have a wreck. But no, I can see that, like, because it's just, you know, like, we're going to go on a long trip. Yeah, let's dial playlist and let's freaking listen. But if they're just running down to the studio or they're running somewhere just real quick to get something to eat, then, you know, they'll turn on the radio. And that's the thing that's weird. But there's so many. It seems to me I haven't listened to the radio in probably, I don't know.
Well, that's a good thing about Shazam, at least. If a song's on, you can get on your Shazam app. Oh, and press it down and listen, and then it deciphers who the song is.
Oh, yeah. So, but I don't. I think less and less money is being put into radio, though. Don't you think? I mean,
yeah. Well, I've already heard from experts and other radio people that the budgets were cut at the labels. Major labels were cutting their budgets at radio.
Because really, you know what? Really, I'm gonna tell somebody it's not. It's really just bragging rights, and it's just not. I'm not saying because hell, me and Scotty also just had a song that did pretty good, but we had Eric Baker, too, on our team. Didn't have much money behind it at all, and it did well for what it was, and
Yeah.
but it was where he got a little bit more live, more money, for his shows and stuff like that because he's touring, and if you're on the charts, it looks better to the venue and all that good stuff.
Not really anymore. The venue's looking at digital now. They look at streaming because they can actually break down when they can go in and see where the streams are happening.
Oh wow, yeah, that's right.
They look at those numbers more than radio charts because there's no guarantee from the radio chart.
So, and I'm confused on this too. Well, I'll ask this because I've seen Facebook stay up for a while. But so many companies came and went, and I was thinking that Spotify was fixing to be one of those companies. But it seemed like they're hanging in there because I guess they're owned by the major labels or something. I don't know. Or somebody owns them. You know what? I think it's all horse shit. Who knows who owns what? Because, and I'd really like to know like that because I don't know, do they really navigate who really wins there, or there's no navigation, is there? It's all.
Well, they can dictate from the people that run the different music departments. And they have editorial playlists, and there's curators all over the place and that kind of thing. So yeah, a little bit.
Do you really feel like that it's better that now the audience picks who wins more, or do you think it's less? I'm coming with some crazy questions. I'm sorry.
No,
I should have wrote them down.
No. I think that the audience does. I think you can get your numbers up if people connect and they like it, and then what happens is it starts to get on the algorithmic radar of the powers that be, and then they give it a little extra push to see, how it responds maybe over on this playlist and see if the numbers are real. Yeah, they can kind of test market a little more.
Well, the reason why I ask because I look at there was an artist that's doing really well streaming. I mean, an artist I produced from Washington, the Low Down Drifters, and plan on having Big John on here sooner or later. And their streams, I think we're past 10 million on the record that I did, the first record they put out. But now there was another artist I recorded up there named Darren Jones, and Darren Jones had an amazing record too, but didn't do near as good. But there was songs though that was deep in. I remember seeing on the Spotify list the order of the songs. And he released the whole record at once, which is now, is not a good thing to do usually. I mean, I'm just saying, not unless, I don't know. That's my questions to you. What's your opinion on that? Because I think if Darren would have released certain songs first, I think he did release, but it was a wrong song. He needed to go with I'm a Songwriter. But anyway, I hear he's doing better, so I haven't talked to him in a while. But it's not near the level that the Low Down Drifters are as far as like a nationwide thing. And what mistakes do you think the artists make on that streaming? How to release stuff, how to time it. What are you doing with your artists now?
I think everything is a story too. You got to build stories, and even with radio, that was the idea. Was the best thing to do was find a market where you can kind of control the region. Right. By, put this, you've got a couple of different things happening at the same time. So if you were using radio, you have to have press. You have to have digital ads happening now. You have to have, performance things and reaching out and connecting with people. So I think if you here's the mistake I think a lot of them do is they put it out and it goes across the world. There's a lot of noise out there. Who's going to find you? Right. But if you go and target a region where you can get to and travel to, and you build there, and you're playing, you're opening. Now you're getting a following. You're opening for bigger artists. Then you can go and cross pollinate with them by getting social media pictures and them tagging you, and you take now you're getting shared out virally to their audience, and then people start to hear about it, and the local radio station knows about it, and you might get some highlighted activity there because you're on an event for that. So I just think that you can't bite off more than you can chew because you cannot take on the whole world. You cannot take on the whole country as an independent. You just can't. It's kind of like spreading yourself thin.
So you're saying
It's like if trying to do too many things.
the one thing there was a lot of things that I love about Jeff Hansen and Jeff Hansen management down here when he was managing Creed and some of the other bands. I love his theory on he had he had a map of the United States out for each artist. Here's where we attack first, and here's where we attack, and just like a freaking general in the army. And I kind of feel like maybe that's what you're saying. Like, make sure you can win. I always say this, and people hate me for this, Holly. They do. I say if you can't win at home, you can't win on the road. It's
right.
Football teams.
But
it doesn't
then
matter
on the
what
other side of it, then you know what would happen with that? When I built Egypt Central in Memphis, so big. I mean, they started out with like 40 people at New Daisy Theater, and next thing you know, we're like we build it up over the year or whatever, and we have 770 people. Right? We had lines an hour and a half before the show, ready to buy tickets, and so we did that. And these kids, they didn't come from money or anything. They were working their butts off on the street.
Right.
And then we put the record out independently. I set up an acoustic set for them at Cats on Union. And it turned out because everyone had seen them a bunch of times as a rock band. They never saw them do an acoustic, and they thought it was intimate, that they were going to get to go see this free show. And that was the biggest turnout that Cats ever had. And then so my point is of this. So we're building this grassroots.
Right.
We set all that up. Then I cut a deal with Selecto Hits because they were doing so well with Cats. Next thing you know, we're like number one on SoundScan, beating out every rap artist in Memphis as an independent selling record. Now, I go to the record labels. I'm like, look at what I've got going on here, trying to get the band a deal. And I'm hearing, oh, well, that's their friends and family. That's their friends and their friends and family are buying all these records. Nobody has any money to buy that amount of records. How can you say that? Right. So it's all their friends. They have 770 people in there. Is all their friends and family? Oh no, we have to see it in another market too. It has to like spill over to somewhere else for it to be convincing to us that it would really sell.
Before they signed them to a big deal. See, well,
what the heck? At that point, I'm like doing it myself. I don't need you.
But you know what's ridiculous about it though? If Jim Zumwalt would have said, "Hey, this band's great," they would have signed him. That's what I have found out. Like, right. If you got somebody that's going to get paid, you know what I'm saying, to get someone paid, they're all. But it's like, you know what I mean? There's like, it's not because he has an opinion that's, Mr. Jim's awesome and I'm gonna say he picks good bands. He's had a good track record.
But then that's the other side of the music business.
But John Fallsdale was a rock star. I mean, I haven't seen him in forever, but I'm saying back then I'm going to sell you on me, man, no matter what, when he sang.
But
when he talked, everything.
But that's where A&R came in, and a lot of people don't understand. When I took John Falls on, he was wearing a basketball tank jersey, and
he was, wasn't he?
He did not. No superstar thing about him at all.
You're right. I remember those.
And
days.
I remember saying to him,
funny.
"Okay, now we've gotten them growing. They had songs, we were developing them." And I said, "Okay, now if I'm going to go and play this to record labels and kind of get something going on here, then you guys need to look like rock stars." So then they started looking at the band, and they got rid of the one guitar player because he didn't fit the look at all. So they got rid of him. Then they brought another guitar player in. Okay, that was fine. So that was the band. So then, I played them. We had some stuff recorded, and I played it. I remember going up, and I was on a business trip with a client who was trying to build his independent label, and I said, "Oh, I have a meeting. I got to go." I took the guy with me, and I said, "I got to go to this meeting. I got to go play this song." For Andy Shane, and he was like, "Oh my God, this song, it's really great." And so he called and he said, "Hey, I want to take you over to see Jason and play the song to Jason." And I had just left Capitol within the year or maybe year and a half, and I had worked for Jason, so that was it was pretty cool that he wanted us to come in and talk to him in his office. So it's just me and this guy and Andy Shane, and we go in there and play it. And Jason's like, "That's a hit." And he goes, where are these guys playing? I said, well, they're playing this weekend in Memphis. He said, don't tell anybody else. Have you played this for anybody else? And I said, no. He goes, don't play it for anybody else, and I'll come down there.
Right.
So next thing I know, he's coming down. And this guy that's I'm working with, he had his own ulterior motives too. So I said, we need lights. And the guy goes, I'll get the money for the lights. So we hired this light show to make it look like a rock show, because we'd never done that before. We didn't have the funds to do it. And then I took John shopping.
Right.
I said, we got to make you look like something. You got to have a look.
Right.
And so we went to Hot Topic or something, and we got that duster. I said, let's do the Matrix look. We got the duster, the black duster.
Uh-huh.
He got his beard trimmed to do some cool thing. He pulled his hair back in the ponytail, and he did the eyeliner, and he was ready. He was ready to go. I said, okay. So the band's all rehearsed, ready to go. Jason's down there. He's in the audience, and I'm in the back with the band, getting them all pumped up, ready to go on the stage. And this is what your champion does. Like,
right.
A lot of people don't know this happens behind the scenes.
Right.
So I said, well, Jason's out there, and we're talking about John being a rock star, and I knew he had it in him, but I hadn't seen it quite yet. So the band goes up on the stage, and I said, John, stay here. We're in the dressing room, and I said, now, you talk a good game, and I said, and you want this real bad. You tell me how bad you want it. You better go out there, and you better kick some ass, and you better show them and convince them that you're a rock star, or you're going to be sitting at a bar someday talking about how you almost made it. Now, are you going to be the guy sitting in the bar about how you almost made it? Or are you going to go out there and freaking tear it up and knock the shit out of them? I'm like, because otherwise I'm standing here wasting my time with some guy in Memphis who isn't going to do shit. So what are you going to do? I got him so pissed off. I was like, you just going to sit there? Are you just some guy sitting in a bar? You're nobody. I said, you're nobody. What are you going to be? How are you going to show him? You going to show him you're somebody? You better get out there and show him you're somebody. He goes out there all like fired up, and he's like, And I'm standing next to Jason. He looks at me and goes, that kid's a star. I said, yep, he is.
You know what my biggest blight is? This will really make them mad. Is when I go, you know what? You're going to be known as like the best fan of all time. You don't want to be the best fan of all time. But
I got to tell you this.
John Falls is a freaking. I was impressed with him. I never got to work with the band. Who produced their stuff?
I
probably shouldn't ask that.
Huh?
I probably should not ask that.
No, it was Josh Abraham.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, dang, it's not. They had a slouch. I mean, shit, you don't get much better than that.
Well, that's how it took. Jason wanted to do a development deal, and I had gotten Brian Shaw as an attorney for them, and Brian Shaw was working with Josh, and he said he played it to him, and Josh was like, I'll do that record. And so we went back to Jason, and we said, hey, Josh Abraham will do the record. And he's like, okay, done. We'll do a regular deal. We're not going to do a development deal. We'll do a full deal. It's like, okay, cool. And that was my first signing outside of Capitol. It was Egypt Central. But I got to tell you, John studied Josie Scott.
Oh, yeah.
Like you would not believe. If Josie did something, John would do it. But he would, he'd make it his own. But I'm saying I know he just, he idolized him.
But that was
because he wanted to make it out of Memphis too.
Man, a lot of singers in there out of that bunch wanted to be Josie, and nothing wrong with that. He was kind of good to inspire people. But you know what? They wanted to be like Josie, but they didn't want to put in the work. And that's the thing is like Josie didn't give a shit. He worked his ass off.
Oh my goodness!
People.
He's a real hustle. I mean, I don't mean that in a hustling in a bad way. I mean like hustling like on the ball field, like. He works.
I saw them come up from nothing, and I mean nothing. I went to shows nobody else went to. I wanted to see where this band was going because, at the time I knew that they were going to be somebody. I knew he was going to go all the way, and I knew that he didn't quite have the band. And then here come Paul Crosby, and I went. Well, Paul Crosby was in a band that I was producing first, and then when he stepped it up, when he really stepped it up as a drummer, and he went to Saliva, I went, oh, well, it's over with now. This is going to happen, because, I love Paul. I just remember him being not that great of a drummer, and then turned around and all of a sudden he was killing it. I just know I saw one show. I was like, oh man, I don't know about this guy. Then I'd met him at night, and then all of a sudden I turned around and he was freaking just killing it. I'm like, fuck yeah, that's what I love. I love to see. I love to see guys that fight for it.
What I got to say about Josie's, and obviously I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying it because I represent him. I represent him because of what I'm saying.
Right.
He's just one of my favorite singers ever. His voice is like so, what's the word I want to say? Flexible. I mean, it can go from being a rap, and his flow, his timing, his cadence is awesome. And then it goes into this crooning thing. He's got the crooner thing.
I have to say, I will say this about Josie Scott. Let's erase everything besides the one thing that I think the world sees that we don't realize because we're close to him. He's just a great person.
Yep.
He's just a great guy. He's someone that you can't help but love, and he has a heart, more heart than, man, I don't know if I've ever seen an artist with that much heart. I mean, he has got heart. I mean, and, when I've talked about that before on the podcast about, my football coach, he's like, man, I'd rather have that kid that's got the freaking heart than have a kid that's got the freaking, the physical part of it.
And that's the other part of the whole A&R thing too.
He's got both. He's got that voice, and he's got the heart, and he's got it all. He's just a great artist, and working on his stuff has been. And I mean, man, I'm not gonna rush through this because I really want it to be so awesome for him. And I sit back and I'm like, okay, is Holly gonna like this? Is he gonna like this? Okay, but man, maybe I should try this. Don't overthink things, but I know if we all come from the same thing, and this is a different kind of thing we're doing. This is not. It's so funny because I think we're really and Josie told me that he's like I want to do something nobody's done. It's like I want to do something that's different, but like classy, and and you said acoustic, and the whole thing.
And the whole idea was we wanted to reconnect him to his fans.
Right.
Like let's go back to where where you left off a little bit.
But I think
and then take them on the journey. You know what I mean? Let refamiliarize each other. Well, and I know they want to hear his voice. And I know what's more perfect than letting them hear his voice and kind of like that.
We're not buried.
Like this, yeah.
We're not buried in a bunch of.
But it's kind of cuddled by this nice fuzzy blanket that's soft and warm, and you're like, oh, I remember those songs, and wow, it's something a little different, but they know the song. And they know his voice, and it was like to me, it was like let's bring it back this way first.
Man, I can't wait to get done.
And then we got to get the new stuff going. We got to get the.
I know.
He's got a great song that he's ready to record that he wrote. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I've got some good ones to send him, just musical stuff, ideas and stuff, and parts. Like but anyway, but I think though it really is that whole Memphis thing and growing up around there and seeing him and being around Boer and all those guys, and I mean, just the group of people me and Josie were talking about that. We had an awesome, like after the shows, we'd always be after party over so and so's house, and we'd all be together. We were kind of like, everybody was family, I mean, there would be somebody mess with somebody's girlfriend or some craziness happen like that.
Oh yeah.
But but a week later, everything would be fine. I'm like, really? What? I mean, well, that was fast, Oh, yeah, he decided to run off with the drummer's wife. It's like, that's his drummer. I mean, it's crazy stuff like that. But
hey, it happened back in the day. They had Eric Clapton and George Harrison and all those. There was like a thing, there was a community. It was an artist community and stuff happening.
I think Keith Richards running off with Brian Jones' old lady. I think that was the first real big one that made a train wreck.
Not like it never happened before.
And somehow Brian ends up dead. It's like I'm just saying. But
So nobody ended up dead in Memphis over somebody's wife. Okay, that's
man.
good.
I'm gonna tell you who knows anything about that. I just know the history of that deal, and I love asking. If you ask my kids, all my little ones, all my big ones, who start the Rolling Stones, they'll tell you Brian Jones. I want them to know music history and stuff like that. But and I'm sure one day they'll go, yeah, my dad worked with Josie Scott. And and people, like Rob Thomas and that bunch, but because he's that level of a guy, and I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited for him to have a second.
And thank you for having me on